Hello everyone and welcome back to another Wizard101 video. Today, I got an idea from my Discord server. Thank you, Emily. Today, we're going over each of the 4 dungeons and whether it is worth it to do them. Now, I would like to say, it is very awkward saying each of the 4 dungeons, considering there's hundreds of dungeons in Wizard101, but they named it that, not me. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to go over each of them. The Kimbalung Village, Barkingham Palace, Zig Zag, and then finally Darkmoor, whether it's worth it to do them, and the major things you get out of doing them. So, let's get into it. I don't think I've ever done this on my channel somehow. I don't know how I haven't, but I haven't. So, let's get right into it. Starting with Kimbalung Village. Kimbalung Village is technically a Mushu area, but you get to it in Krokotopia at level 25. You unlock it, you go to Sergeant Major Talbot right here, and he'll give you a quest and tells you to go to Kimbalung Village, which you do right here. When you go, you find out, some stuff like some people are doing some stuff, Marleybonians just being Marleybonians, you get the gist. And then you do the dungeons. I'd like to say, I think, to be honest, this is the weakest of the 4 dungeons. There's really not too much of a point to do this one. It does drop some okay gear at level 25, but realistically, you're 5 levels off of Zeus gear anyway, so there's really no point in getting it. If you're coming here, most likely it's for the XP. I will say, though, I do know for a fact that the boss the Oni boss in the riddle area, if you beat him, he will drop, I believe, a balance amulet that gives feint at level 25, like a feint TC. So, as a balance wizard, it could potentially be good to do Kimbalung Village to get that feint at that very early level. So, ultimately, what do we say about Kimbalung Village? Realistically, it's not really that worth it to do unless you want the XP. It gives a solid few thousand XP and will give you a little bit of a boost at level 25. Alright, next on our list is Barkingham Palace. I remember as a kid always coming here and thinking that you could get to Barkingham Palace by doing all of this guy's side quests, which was not true. It never was true, but I thought that you could, and then I finished all the side quests and still didn't do it, but I still thought that I could get in there. I don't know why. I was a strange child playing Wiz. But, they added this dungeon, the Barkingham Palace dungeon, and it is one of actually my favorite dungeons in this game. I do love doing it, and it drops some pretty cool gear if I do say so myself. As I've probably mentioned, I think I've mentioned this, you unlock it at level 40, so you come here, you're gonna be like mid-Dragonspire level, and there are quite a few reasons to do this dungeon. First off, it gives quite a lot of XP, like quite a bit of XP. It drops wooden skeleton keys quite frequently, which are pretty good for some early game side bosses if you want those. And finally, the biggest reason to do it is that it actually drops really solid gear. The Barkingham Palace gear is above Zeus gear. The only reason why people don't really farm for it is that they see it as a little bit of a hassle. But I would like to say I think that this dungeon is easier and faster than Zeus's dungeon, but there are less people doing it, so you can do rooftop, and when you do rooftop, it's a pretty fast dungeon with an easy boss. Final boss will drop all the gear. It's pretty solid, and as I said, it drops a lot of wooden skeleton keys. It's pretty good. So ultimately, Barkingham Palace, do it at least once. I would recommend doing it at least once. It is pretty good. But you don't need to farm it if you have Zeus gear. Alright, so next on our list, you unlock at level 60, which is Zig Zag. Zig Zag is a branch of Krokotopia. You come here, you have to go through this statue thing to actually get there. And basically you go to this like hidden realm of Krokotopia. Pretty darn cool if you ask me, and it does look really cool. I love like the nighttime look and like the upside down pyramid and everything. It all looks really sick. And then like these manders that are like different than usual, they're a bit strange, but I do like them. They're pretty darn cool. This dungeon, I would say realistically, there isn't much of a point to do anymore. You used to want to do it for the Zig Zag gear, but at this point the Zig Zag gear isn't as worth it because the main reason you got Zig Zag gear was for that extra crit, and crit does not matter anymore, especially before level 100. Crit does not matter. So realistically, is it worth it to get it? No, but I'll go over the different things you can get. First off, this gives really solid XP, so if you want XP boost, it'll get you probably at least one level. do Zig Zag. It's pretty solid in that regard. It drops some cool little hidden gems and stuff in it. It's overall pretty good. And ultimately, the final boss, Amit the Devourer, I believe he's called, drops what is called Zig Zag gear. It's Waterworks gear, but ever so slightly better. Like, it gives like 1 more damage in some cases. In some cases, it's not even better. The main reason why people used to get it is for that extra like 50 crit, I think it gave overall, which was quite a lot back in the day, but nowadays it does not matter in the slightest. So ultimately, would I consider doing Zig Zag to be a good option? I would say yes, just for the XP. But really, if you don't want to, it isn't like it'll be anything like particularly harmful for you. As long as you have Waterworks or Winter Tusk crafted gear, you're completely fine, and you do not need to get Zig Zag gear. Alright, the last dungeon on our list is obviously Darkmoor. Everyone knows Darkmoor. You unlock it at level 100. You're challenged by Malistaire to mortal combat and basically have to fight him. You know, you have no other choice. So you come to Castle Darkmoor and you beat him up. You go through a lot of hard fights, and everyone knows, you know, it's Darkmoor. Everyone's done it. Is it worth doing Darkmoor? Now, this is a question, and why the video is... This is going to be a majority of the video, actually, is Darkmoor worth it, I think, because it really is quite debatable nowadays. And the reason why I say that is Darkmoor gear really isn't necessary. A lot of it isn't necessary. Let me amend it to that. First off, let me explain what it gives. If you don't know, Darkmoor gives really, really good gear for level 100, like solid damage. Definitely is worth doing at least once for the XP and for, especially for the shadow magic spell it gives. Like, a lot of the spells are really good, like glow bugs, Cthulhu, Gaze of Fate. Gaze of Fate isn't as good. I don't know why I mentioned that one, but there are some really good spells here if you want to get them. So do at least once for that. But in regard to farming for the gear, is it worth it? That's a harder question to answer. And I know a lot of people are like, yes, it is worth it to get the Darkmoor gear, but I would argue that it really isn't. There's really not too much of a point to get the Darkmoor gear, and the reason for that is that Dragoon gear now exists, and it's at 130, which is a really easy level to get to. A lot of Arc 3, I don't know if you guys have played it, but Arc 3 is actually easier than Arc 2, I would argue. It's at a point where Arc 3, they lowered the enemy's health, and even in Imperia, it's still a little bit easier than Chrysalis, I would say. And that's the main reason why I say I don't know if it's worth it to get the Darkmoor gear. Now, I would like to amend it. If you haven't gotten the Waterworks gear at this point, yes, you should get the Darkmoor gear. But if you look at my myth here, I still have the Winter Tusk crafted gear, and I'm level 103. Now, obviously, I want to do Darkmoor, and I will do Darkmoor. You can see I have the quest with me. I haven't done it yet, but I have the quest with me. I do want to do Darkmoor. What's stopping me from doing it is it feels like it's kind of worthless to upgrade it. And the reason why I say that is that 100 damage, which you can get extremely easily at level 100. Like, make no mistake about it, getting 100 damage at level 100 is so easy. 100 damage is enough to carry you all the way through Imperia. I can say that with 100% certainty, and that is what makes me hesitate on whether it's worth it to farm for the Darkmoor gear. Now, I would like to say, and I'm going to say this with 100% certainty, you do want to farm for the robe. For almost every school, the Malistaire robe is the best robe, even now up to level 100 and 150. Like 140 and now 150 with Lemuria coming out. I can tell you that this is still the best robe for fire. It's still the best robe for storm, death. Almost every school, the only robe that's a contender is the Tennyson robe, which even then, in a lot of cases, isn't exactly worth it. You lose on a bit of accuracy that is pretty useful for a lot of wizards. But the robe is definitely worth it. But the hat and the boots nowadays just really aren't necessary. You can totally go with the Waterworks boots right up until level 130, and I did do that on some of my wizards. Like, I have done that on a wizard before, just because I'm too lazy to farm for it, and once I get that robe, I'm out of there. Like, there's no reason. So ultimately, that's what I want to go over today, my opinion on that. Obviously, you can feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I can tell you that even a newer player can get through all of Arc 3 without getting all the Darkmoor gear, and if you don't have to suffer through Darkmoor, don't. I was considering making a video on it, but I still haven't decided whether I'm going to do it or not. Basically on Darkmoor, and how Darkmoor is just a, like, disgusting pit of toxicity. And I was thinking about making a video on it. Ultimately, I decided not to, at least for today. But I think it's important to note that Darkmoor is really not good for first-time users and is really, really not good if you are a solo player. Team up is awful. You're going to meet really mean people who insult you. You're going to meet just disgustingly toxic people. And it's really just not worth it in a lot of cases. Which is why I go under the motto of, if I don't have to do Darkmoor, I won't. Which is why, in a lot of cases, I just use Vanguard gear at 130. It's as simple as that. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Ultimately, should you do Darkmoor? Yes, that's a definite yes. So just to recap each of the 4 dungeons. How did you get down there? Oh, I guess you could just walk down there. Just to recap on each of the 4 dungeons. Kimbalung Village, not really worth it. Barkingham Palace is definitely quite worth it, in my opinion. Zig Zag, not really worth it. And then Darkmoor is obviously extremely worth it. So let me know if you agree with that in the comments below. Let me know if you have something that I missed, because I am more than happy to, you know, to respond to things and see what I missed. I'm excited for that. But that's it for today. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Adios.